Hi everyone, welcome back to a weekly roundup of the polity and governance issues that made news from October 8th till October 13th. Let's have a quick review of what made news with regard to polity and governance, with regard to your legislature, executive, judiciary and many other issues as well. So the first very important issue is about the judiciary. There is a 7-judge bench now that is going to take up and give priority to the money bill case. So we know that there are different types of bills that are passed at the Legislative Assembly and also the Parliament, and they are ordinary bills, money bills and also constitutional amendment bills, as well as public and private bills as well. So in recent years the government has been taking another route to get many of the legislations being passed so that it can avert or it can avoid a bill going to the Rajya Sabha, and the one way is to introduce a bill like a money bill, because we know that the money bill can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha does not have any power on with regard to money bill. So even if it does not agree with the bill, it is deemed to be passed because it is the power of the Lok Sabha. And in recent years there has been some major legislations that have taken the colorable route of being a money bill. They have been introduced as a money bill and being passed in the Parliament. Now this case is going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to decide about whether this procedure of introducing bills like money bills, even if they do not satisfy the definition under Article 110, is correct or no. So a 7-judge Supreme Court is going to hear the challenge to the centre's use of money bills for passing important laws. Now Chief Justice of India said that a 7-judge bench is going to be set up to hear a batch of pleas which are going to challenge the centre's use of money bill route to pass key legislations. Now some of the most important so what will the 7-judge bench do? It will examine whether a law validly categorized as a money bill or only to circumvent the scrutiny of the Rajya Sabha, the centre is doing so. So we all know that the money bill is dealt in under Article 110 of the Constitution, and a money bill is a bill that is introduced in the Lok Sabha, and the opinion of the Speaker is final with regard to designating a bill as a money bill or no. So it deals with the definition in Article 110 of the Constitution, and a money bill can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha. The Speaker categorizes the bill as a money bill before it goes to the Rajya Sabha, and it need not be passed by the Rajya Sabha. So even if they do not agree with the contents of the bill, it is going to be taken as deemed to be passed. The Union Budget is an example of a money bill. Now Article 110 clause 3 says that if any question arises whether a bill is a money bill or not, the decision of the Speaker of the House of the Lok Sabha is final, and this raises a question with regard to the judicial review, the extent of the judicial review with regard to the Speaker's decision or power with regard to a money bill. However, in 2018, when the Supreme Court was listening to the Aadhaar case, which was also passed like a money bill, it said that the Speaker's decision is open to judicial scrutiny. And under Article 110 clause 1, a bill is deemed to be a money bill if only it deals with the matters of 110 clause clause 1 from subclauses A to G. That is, it deals with taxation, borrowing by the government, appropriation of money from the Consolidated Fund of India, among others. Article 110 clause 1G adds that any matter incidental to any of the matters specified in Article 110A to F is also be a money bill. Now the government has used this particular clause, Article 110G, to pass many other bills like a money bill. Citing this additional clause, the government has introduced several key legislations as a money bill by passing the passage of by the Rajya Sabha. That is because it does not have the numbers, and it knows that if it goes to the Rajya Sabha, the bill is going to be stuck because of the lack of numbers. Now the constitutionality of 3 key legislations, including the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, will be examined afresh by the larger bench, whether to see if the laws qualified as a money bill because they were passed as money bill. 2 others are the Aadhaar Act and the 2017 amendments altering the service conditions of the tribunals. Now, while the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, Aadhaar Act have been upheld by the court, the Supreme Court struck down the amendments to the tribunals, saying that is unconstitutional. So these are the 3 bills that are acts that are going to be taken up for scrutiny by the Supreme Court 7-judge bench. That is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which gave vast powers to the Enforcement Directorate, Aadhaar Act, which was passed and the Supreme Court ruled ruled in favor of the government and said that it cleared the Aadhaar Act as a valid under the money bill. The reasoning given by the centre was that all the subsidies which it goes to the targeted people use Aadhaar, and therefore it clarifies it is valid as a money bill. And the other one is the Tribunal Reform Act, which was struck down, which was upheld by the which was struck down by the Supreme Court, saying that it was unconstitutional. So these are the issues that are going to be looked by the 7-judge bench, and we need to wait and watch and see what the Supreme Court is going to say about the government taking the route of the money bill to circumvent the scrutiny by the Rajya Sabha, and also whether the Supreme Court can look into the Speaker's power of classifying it as a money bill. The next most important thing is that the Supreme Court reserved its order or withheld its order with regard to judgment of the Bilkis Bano case. Now, the bench wrapped up the arguments and reserved its order for a later date, especially on a point whether the state is allowed as followed the uniform standards while granting remission. So we know that the President and the Governor have particular powers with regard to pardoning, remitting, etc. the convicts of cases, and these powers are exercised by the President and the Governor at the state level. Now, this is a case with regard to convicts of the Bilkis Bano case, where she was sexually assaulted and many of her family members were killed in the aftermath of the Gujarat riots, where 11 convicts were given life imprisonments, but then their sentences were cut short to 14 years and they were left free after 14 years of sentence, and this was now challenged in the court by Bilkis Bano. So the pleas granted were against the remission granted by the Gujarat government to the 11 convicts who were given actually life sentences for the crimes committed in the aftermath of the 2002 Gujarat riots. The Gujarat remission was seen controversial, and the order to prematurely release 11 convicts who were convicted of such a dastardly act when Bilkis Bano herself was 3 months pregnant at that time, and many other people were itself languishing in the jails. But these people, because of the dastardly act they done, even though they had been left prematurely on remission, and this was challenged by Bilkis Bano. But Banu's lawyer said that the convicts did not deserve a remission for the heinous nature of their crimes. So what exactly is the case about? The major question is whether the Gujarat government can provide remission, because the case was fought in Maharashtra, and when the case was trialed in Maharashtra, and whether the convicts can be released on a remission when many others with many other crimes and also lesser crimes were languishing in the jails. Now, the jurisdiction was challenged, as I said. So Bilkis Bano challenged the jurisdiction of the Gujarat in granting remission to the convicts. She said the trial of the case actually happened in Maharashtra, and the state government there was competent authority to decide on the issue of remission. She referred to section 432 of which said that the appropriate government would be the state within which the offender is sentenced, and they were sentenced by the Maharashtra court. Then so as I told you that the case is actually with regard to the post Godhra riots, where she was sexually assaulted and left to die with the 14 other of her family members when she was along with a 3-year-old daughter, where she was 3 months pregnant at that time. And the Gujarat government released these 11 convicts who were sentenced of life imprisonment on August 2022. All the 11 convicts were released on remission given by the Gujarat and also okayed by the centre as well. Bilkis Bano and others approached the top High Court challenging the premature release of these 11 convicts. Some of the PILs were seeking direction to revoke the remission given to these 11 convicts, and the state government had said that it had considered the case of the 11 convicts as per the policy of 1992, and remission granted to them in August 2022, and the centre also approved to the release of the convicts. So this is about the Supreme Court looking into the remission. So we need to wait and watch and see whether Gujarat government had the power to give the remission, and what exactly, especially with regard to criminality or also favors by the government to such convicts. And these are the people who might have influenced, they say, that the government at the state level to grant them remission, and this the state might also look go into the reports that might have to be submitted before granting a remission to the convicts. So there is another debate now making rounds that whether the 50% legal ceiling on the quota should be there or it should go away. Now this comes up after the Bihar government released a caste survey data very recently on October 7, and the data showed that the OBCs, the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, together account for 84% of Bihar state's population. And this has now reopened the debate whether the 50% legal ceiling on the caste-based reservation should be removed. Now, this ceiling was given by the Supreme Court in the Indira Sauni case, laid that the reservation should not exceed 50% of the ceiling. So, what are the arguments for and against? Now, many states have already breached the 50% ceiling. Tamil Nadu itself has given as reservations coming up to 69%, and to protect them from judicial review, it has placed these reservations in the 9th schedule of the Constitution. Moreover, already the centre has also given 10% to the economically weaker sections, and it is also it's exceeding the 50% line. There are many other states along also. Many political scientists and sociologists view 50% ceiling is arbitrary because the judiciary came out with this 50% ceiling as it did not have the numbers to cap the ceiling, and they say that they are much more backward classes and therefore the ceiling should go away. OBCs, some say that OBC is an administrative criteria, not a caste category. So there are heterogeneous castes that are grouped under the OBCs. The risk of the landed and the legally dominant communities taking more advantage is there. Therefore, there is a need for subcategorization of the communities which do not have enough representation, which will become necessary. And Bihar, for example, as extremely backward classes category, Tamil Nadu has come up with most backward classes category, and this is almost as making the situation even more complex, and therefore there is a need for correctly defining who actually comes under the OBCs. So these are some of the arguments for and against. And let's move on to the next issue. The next most important issue is now India ranks 111th out of 135 countries on the Global Hunger Index, and India has been ranked so, which is a report given by 2 European agencies. It was released on October 12th, and India slipped 4 positions compared to last year. This is what it says. So the only countries that rank, so 135, India is very close, 111, higher the rank, worst the position. The only countries who rank lower than India, that is from 12 to 135, are Timor Leste, Mozambique, Afghanistan, Haiti, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Chad, Niger, Lesotho, Democratic Republic of Congo, Yemen, Madagascar, Central African Republic, South Sudan, Burundi and Somalia. The irony is now all these countries have fared better than all the other countries above whom India has fared better are actually small economies compared to India, which is a fastest growing economy in the world. Now India stands in a group also, it's very startling to know that India stands in the group of 40 countries where the scale of the global hunger has been termed as very serious. Now the overall global hunger index score of India according to the current reports is 28.7. The calculation of the score is done on a 100-point scale. The higher the score, the worse the performance, or the worse the performance of the country. Broadly speaking, the higher global hunger index can be evidence of lack of food, poor quality diet, inadequate childcare practices, unhealthy environment, or also a combination of these factors. This is what the report says. Now let's look at India's performance on certain parameters. Wasting means low weight for height. According to the report, India has the highest child wasting rate across the world, 18.7%. This is what the report says, reflecting acute undernutrition for the children. In fact, wasting is considered to be a worst form and indicator of all forms of child undernutrition. If the country has more than 15% of the children wasted, it is marked as very high level of the concern in the report. India is the only country, and thus wasting has been put in the category of very high with regard to India. Stunting means low height for age. As far as childhood stunting is, India comes again in the category of very high risk categories. More than 35% of India's children is marked as stunted according to the report, although several other African countries and some Southeast Asian countries perform worse than India on this parameter. With about 16.6% of the overall population undernourished, India's level of undernourishment has been marked as medium risk. And in the under 5 mortality, India has been marked as a country with low risk, with about 3.1% of the children dying before the age of 5. About 16.6% of the overall population is undernourished. This is what I just told you. The prevalence of anemia among the women aged 15 to 24 has been reported as a major problem in the country. More than 50% of the women and adolescents are anemic in the country, one of the highest in the world. This is what the report says. And now the government has not accepted this report. It says that it is against these projections. The Indian government has rejected the report altogether, like it has done on previous occasions as well, issuing a statement. The government termed the methodology followed by the report preparation as very faulty and has also raised concerns regarding the selection of the 4 parameters used. 3 out of the 4 indicators used for the calculation of the index are related to health of the children and cannot be representative of the entire population. This is what the government of India says. Fourth and the most important indicator, proportion of undernourished, as I just told you, 16.6%, is based on an opinion poll conducted of a very small population sample of 3,000. This is what the government of India claims. And now this data on undernourishment has been taken from the State of the Food Security and Nutrition in the World, known as the SOFI report, prepared by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, United Nations Children Fund, International Fund UNICEF, and the International Fund for Agriculture and Development. DHI report markers have denied the allegations of the Indian government on the other hand. So this is what has come about the Global Hunger Index with regard to India. And the next most important news is that elections have been notified in now 5 states. The Election Commission of India has a responsibility to conduct elections to the office of the President, Vice President, the Parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, as well as the state legislative assemblies under Article 324 of the Constitution. Assembly elections are now going to be conducted before December 3rd, where the counting is going to be done for these states in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Telangana, Mizoram. Chhattisgarh is the only state that is going to have 2 phase polls, and the CEC said that there would be 1.77 lakh polling stations in the 5 states, out of which 1.01 lakh would have facilities for webcasting, and more than 8,000 polling stations would be managed by women. A special focus has been given for making electoral rolls more inclusive and ensuring that all the voters come to vote. There are a total of 16.14 crore voters in these 5 states going to the polls, which is approximately 1/6 of the total voters in the country. And for the very first time, Election Commission has now used a new election seizure management system, which it has introduced for better oversight for ensuring inducement-free elections. A total of 940 checkposts have been put in place for strict vigil along the interstate borders and to dry up the inflow of illicit liquor, cash, freebies, and also drugs for this purpose. And now with the elections coming into the election schedule being announced in the 5 states and counting to be happening on December 3rd, there is the Model Code of Conduct now that has come into force. Now the Model Code of Conduct has come into force in 5 states of Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Telangana, which will be going to polls from November until where the counting of the votes will be done by December 3rd. The poll schedule was announced in a press conference by Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar, who was accompanied by 2 other election commissioners. The Model Code of Conduct is actually a set of guidelines issued by the Election Commission of India and was enforced for the very first time in the state of Kerala in 1960 elections for the conduct of political parties, its candidates during the election, mainly with respect to electioneering speeches, polling day, polling booths, portfolios, election manifestos, processions, and general conduct during the elections. It is a set of norms that have been evolved through consensus of the political parties, and they have also agreed to abide by the principles embodied in the code in letter and spirit. Let me tell you that the Model Code of Conduct is not enforceable legally. However, it is enforceable through various other laws, and it comes into force immediately as the Election Commission announces the election schedule and is in force until the counting of the votes are done and the elections are over. The main purpose is actually to ensure that the ruling parties at the center and the states do not misuse their position for their due advantage of their own, and it is designed to avert practices that are deemed corrupt under the Model Code of Conduct. It is now this Model Code of Conduct was brought about by the Election Commission, keeping in spirit of the Article 324 of the Constitution, which gives the power to the Election Commission to ensure free and fair elections to the Parliament and the state legislatures. It was enforced in Kerala for the state legislative assemblies elections in 1960. Then it was released to the general elections of the Lok Sabha in 1962. It is not enforceable by law. However, provisions of the Model Code of Conduct can be enforced through invoking provisions included in the Indian Penal Code of 1860, Code of Criminal Procedure Code of 1973, and the Representation of People Act of 1951. There have been recommendations to make the Model Code of Conduct legally binding, but the Election Commission says because the duration of the elections is very less, and therefore then to trial and to complete the case in such a less time is not possible, and therefore the Election Commission itself has been against. It says it is already being enforced by the provisions of the IPC, CRPC, and the Representation of People Act. There is another standing committee which made a recommendation that it should be a part or included in the Representation of People Act of 1951. So this is about the Model Code of Conduct. And with regard to hunger, once again, National Malnutrition Protocol now has been released, and the most important part of this protocol is the Badi Mother concept, and also the protocol starts from the Anganwadi level. So it was released by the Ministry of Women and Child Development on October 10, who launched a standardized national protocol to identify and to provide extensive care to malnourished children in the country, which includes fresh initiatives like appetite testing and also a Badi Mother concept as well. The protocol for management of malnutrition in children, as it is called, it is launched by the Union Minister of Women Child Development. It provides a detailed 10-step guideline for identification and management of malnourishment in the children at the Anganwadi level, including decision making for referral and nutrition management, and also following up the care. The protocol for management of malnutrition in the children was released, and the guidelines include growth monitoring of the child, appetite testing of the child, nutritional management of the malnourished children, follow-up care of the children who manage to achieve requisite growth parameters after intervention. It also includes initiative like the Badi Mother concept, which was first used in the state of Assam. Under the scheme, the Mother of Healthy Babies guides the mothers of malnourished children at the Anganwadi center every week. Launching the new protocol, the minister said the new guidelines will check malnutrition among the children, and already the government is tackling the issue of malnutrition by implementing Poshan Abhiyan and also Poshan Ma. In the month of September, the identification of malnourished children and their treatment is an integral aspect of inclusive development and also Mission Poshan 2.0, and more than 17 crore activities have been taken place since the Poshan Ma, or the Nutrition Month, is launched by the Government of India. The standardized protocol is significant. Until recently, treatment of severe acute malnutrition was considered to be strictly based on facility-based approaches, and this is the first time that it will be addressed at the Anganwadi level, and including decision making to be taken up at the Anganwadi level and follow-up care as well. So much more better care to the children with regard to malnutrition. And the other most important one is that Mera Yuva Bharat, an autonomous body which the government is going to come up, and recently I've touched upon with this issue, but let me just once again go into it, that what this body will actually do. So Mera Yuva Bharat will be an autonomous body which will benefit the youth in 15 to 29 years of age group, and in line with the definition of the National Youth Policy 2014, that it has defined youth including the people from youth as people from the age group of 15 to 29, and the beneficiaries, as I told you, will be the age group of 10 to 19 years. The establishment of the Mera Yuva Bharat would lead to leadership development in the youth, improving leadership skills through experiential learning, from shifting to physical interaction to programmatic skills, investing more in the youth to make them social innovators, leaders in communities, setting the focus on the government for youth-led development, better alignment with youth aspirations and community needs, enhance efficiency through convergence of existing programs, acting as a one-stop shop for young people and ministers, and also creating a centralized youth database, improving two-way communication between the youth and the government, and ensuring accessibility by creating physical ecosystems. So these are what the goals of the Mera Yuva Bharat, an autonomous body, is being touted as. The next most important issue is the P20 summit Summit, that is the 9th G20 Parliamentary Speaker Summit that was inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Yashobhoomi. The summit is being hosted by Parliament of India under the broad framework of India's G20 presidency, and it is in line with the theme of G20, that is Parliaments for One Earth, One Family, One Future. The event was attended by the speakers of the G20 members and invitee countries. The Pan-Africa Parliament will took part in the P20 summit for the very first time after African Union became a member of the G20 in the recently held summit in India. The pre-summit parliamentary forum on life, that is lifestyle for environment, was also held and deliberated on the initiatives for greener and more sustainable future in harmony with nature. And this is the very first time that the G20 parliamentary summit or the P20 summit is hosted with India. And adhering to the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Parliaments for One Earth, One Family, One Future, the two-day P20 summit deliberated on the following issues like Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development Goals, sustainable energy transition, gateway to green future, mainstreaming gender equality, from women development to women-led development, transforming people's life through public digital platforms. The 9P20 reflects a glorious journey of collective vision of the presiding officers of the Parliament of G20 nations. And Mission Life was launched. As I told you, a P20 summit of Mission Life was held. It is a worldwide effort that was launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2022, dedicated to supporting eco-friendly and a lifestyle that protects the environment. So Mission Life was included in the updated nationally determined contributions that was given by India to the Paris Convention in August 2022. It is a key to combating climate change and involves 7 most important steps: reducing waste, reducing e-waste, adopting healthy lifestyle, adopting sustainable food systems, saying no to single-use plastic, saving water and saving energy. So this is, and at the P20 summit there was a joint statement that was adopted by the members of the P20 as well. And finally we had Kaushal Vikas Samaro, that was it is an annual skill convocation ceremony that was held by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, organized by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, a dedicated ministry for skilling of the youth. It is on these lines the Prime Minister dedicated how important it is to skill the youth of the country to enable the growth prospects of the nation and to cater to the emerging market demands as well. He also touched upon how the 5,000 new ITIs have been set up in the country, and also spoke about various programs that were launched by the government, for example National Skill India Mission and a dedicated ministry to look into the skilling. He also made note of the global mapping of skills that he put forward at the G20 summit, and this is what had took place with regard to your polity and governance in the weekly issue from October 8th to 13th. And I hope these topics were really helpful to you all. A quick review of the weekly topics will not only speed up your preparation but also make you more confident that you are in tune and you can be on time with regard to your preparation, so that you don't need to rush when the exam date is really coming nearby. So always preparing well in advance will not only save your time, but you can always invest your time in other things as well. And I shall see you in my next post with another important topic, and until then, it's happy learning. Please do not share to like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to comment as well. Thank you.